It is Powwow.
The Powwow with Mo podcast.
What up, and welcome to episode 33 of the Powwow with Mo podcast. I am Mo.
And I am Powwow.
And this one's going to be a little late, but most people won't notice or care.
For sure.
All right, so something I've noticed, I had this written down since before Chris was on last week.
Mm-hmm.
We have really bad grammar. I mean, yours is a little worse at certain parts of mine.
Yeah.
A lot of were, was mistakes. I think we're better than a lot of people around here, but I'm sure to most people that don't live around here, we sound like idiots. But I want everyone to know we're smarter than the average idiot around here.
For sure.
I would think.
I mean, usually whenever, especially if I go on a tirade, my grammar is just gone. I go from like normal adult to about sixth grade or junior high level of just straight going nuts.
So, speaking of Chris's, I'm sure you didn't listen to the episode last week. Is there any basketball movies that come to your mind that are awesome?
So I'd have to go with The Sixth Man.
I gave it a shout out, but it wasn't on my list.
Joanna Man.
Also a shout out, but I was like, it doesn't hold up real well.
Agreed. It's definitely controversial. Especially,
Chris never heard of it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very strange. Yeah, that's really.
I threw Air Bud in on the end of mine on number 5 just because it was important at the time, but it is a shitty movie.
Yeah, I mean, and then Space Jam.
It had Space
obviously.
Jam, yeah.
And then off the top of my head, and I can't believe I can't even think of what it is. Is it
White Man Can't Jump? Right.
That
was my number 1.
I was like, I know the movie, I just can't remember what it is, and that's obviously I think that's all the basketball movies I can think of right now.
Yeah.
Without doing any kind of research.
All right, so we mentioned Ichiro a lot on this podcast because we like Ichiro and I like the Mariners. He didn't know who Tom Brady was. Did you see that story?
No, I didn't, but that's awesome.
Someone asked him something about Tom Brady, and he was like,
"Who?
Who's Tom Brady?"
That's crazy.
And I know it's just because he's like Japanese, right? And like how would he? I mean, he just probably doesn't care.
Well, I bet he only focuses on baseball.
Right.
And did you see he's no longer a player on the Mariners? They moved him to the front office.
Okay.
He had like a 180 something batting average. But they were like, we want to keep you around. I mean, he was a staple of that franchise.
Well, honestly, I bet it would help them bring in other Asian talent.
Exactly. First off, we talked about this when earlier in the spring.
Asian Babe Ruth?
Yes.
Right. Ohtani.
He has been beasting, sir. Yeah. I don't know of anybody else.
Every pitcher somehow is awesome this year.
Yeah.
And then every home run hitter is awesome this year.
And he's both.
And
it's insane that he is a starting pitcher and a DH, and he's not a DH every day.
Right.
Yet when he's going out there, he's still over 300 batting average with busting bombs nonstop.
Well, Mike Trout needs something. That's where I'm at on all of it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad.
Agreed. I mean, it is awesome to see it. It does suck that the Tigers probably won't do anything for the next 4 to 5 years while we've got Miggy's contract.
I feel bad for Detroit in general. The fact that football, I don't know about hockey. I'm sure hockey, they're great. But football's like the best sport they have right now, and that's not good.
No.
That's not good for Detroit.
And what really sucks for the Tigers, especially for Miguel Cabrera, they had 3 straight years where they should have won the World Series at least 1 or twice. I mean, they went to the World Series 2 or 4 years. Were on the track. They had some great talent. But then, whatever reason, Verlander gets to the World Series, and he just bombs.
Not in Houston.
And, yeah. Anyways, it does suck to see that they're going to go through all this. But I am glad they're not trying to dump Miguel Cabrera. They are going to let him ride off into the sunset, even though it's going to be a shitty sunset for the next 4 to 5 years.
Right.
Because he got a stupid contract, like 20-something mil a year. Something ridiculous.
Well, and then, speaking of Tom Brady, did you see his outfit at the Met Gala?
No.
You should.
I'm looking at it.
Just Google Tom Brady Met Gala. He looks like a Zoolander.
The first thing that comes up when I type in Tom Brady, and it's crazy that it's not like stats or anything. Wow, a Zoolander style. Right? What is this? I mean, I get he's trying to match his wife's gold, but whew.
I know. I thought it was crazy. And then Rihanna, dressed like the Pope. And there was some crazy other their whole thing was something about Catholic. There was some Catholic slant or religious slant to the Met Gala outfits. Mm-hmm. Funniest shit I saw was, I'm sure it's a fake Twitter account by the Pope, right? Like someone has the Pope's name on Twitter. And it was like, my culture is not your style. Basically saying like quit appropriating my culture.
Yep.
And I just love it whenever it's used from white people. I think it's funny. Like, I would love it if white people started going around for every time someone's like, white people can't have dreads, they should be like, all right, quit straightening your hair. Unless you're Indian.
See, and
Asians can, but you know what I mean? Like, I just think, I think you should be able to do whatever you want to make you feel good. And no one should tell you it doesn't. If you want fucking dreads and you're white, I think you look ridiculous, but go for it.
I mean, we have, he's now married into his family.
Right, in-law.
Yeah, but he had dreads for a while.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, he didn't look bad. The only problem that I ever heard of a complaint of his significant other was how bad they stunk.
Yeah.
Again, I've never had dreads. I can barely stand my hair when it gets.
I won't lie and act like I never thought about it in college, but I was also like, what's going to give me away for the fact I smoke pot? Probably having dreads.
That's the number one thing. You feel like
I was also
wears dreads.
I never bought one shirt with a marijuana leaf. I just didn't think that was smart.
No,
it was all that shit.
No, I did have one, which was that Bob Marley shirt.
Yeah, but you only wore it in our house.
Yeah, that was it. I never wore it outside.
Change shirts real quick.
Exactly.
Also, I go to the park, walk my dog a lot. Mm-hmm. For people that aren't in Ada, I don't know how big to tell you this park is. It's 1 mile track around.
Yep.
If that gives you a guess of the size, right? So this is a pond. I've never fished in it. I've thought about it because I see people doing it. There were people in 2 canoes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people in canoes
in the
recently.
middle of it fishing. And I was like, I could hit any place on this pond/lake. I don't know I wouldn't call it a lake. I'd call it a pond.
Yeah,
I just don't see the point of the canoe. And I think it was a canoe, not a kayak, but one of those, right? It was open, though. Mm-hmm. Like, their legs weren't covered with something.
Then so I think a canoe.
Thought so. But I cracked up laughing when I saw it because these fuckers are like professional fishermen out there in their damn canoes. And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Got those shirts on with all those extra pockets.
Yeah, they got all the
khaki shorts. Yep.
And I was like, God damn it. But it was funny because they were about 5 feet from the bank. So it was like, why?
What are you doing?
Why are you in these?
I mean, if you're doing it, at least go out there.
The coolest part about the park lately is over the winter, a beaver moved in.
Really?
And if it's really cold at night, it'll be swimming around. And I love the angry beavers. That was one of my shows, man. And so I'm always checking it out.
Yeah.
But I feel like someone's going to try to kill it.
For sure. So I know one of your favorite baseball players is Vladimir Guerrero.
I do like him, yes.
So his son, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
is killing it.
Beast in it, sir. 398 batting average, 455 on-base percentage. He's got 3 home runs, 30 RBIs, 20 runs scored in just 113 plate appearances. I mean, this kid is straight beast in AA ball right now. They're moving him up to AAA.
Right.
I am excited to see if
he's like a character on the show.
Yeah.
He's just moving up.
Exactly. I mean, I am excited to see he does have an arm like his dad. His dad in right field threw people out like crazy.
Yeah.
I am excited to see how this guy goes. The only thing that I am slightly disappointed in is he doesn't have tape on his fingers. Yeah. He does wear batting gloves.
Fuck those batting gloves.
You know what I mean? I feel like his dad would have been like, yeah, son, you're not allowed to wear those. We're real men in this house. We don't wear batting gloves. But it is awesome to see that a younger kid, because a lot of these times, like King Guerrero Jr.'s son who tried making the NFL, he's bounced around team to team.
Right.
There's not too many.
Michael Jordan's son was
exactly.
I went D2 or something.
I mean, you may see like LeBron's kid. I know that's when he said he's going to retire.
It's going to be something different there. I know. It is weird. I think people our age, because, you're 29, I'm 30. Mm-hmm. I think around our age, those athletes' kids might actually do something. But the generation of, like, the kids that were our age, whose parents were famous athletes, not most of them didn't seem to pan out. No. Like we said, you see Shaq's kid. Yeah. You see LeBron's kid, all these kids that are in high school now, like, they all look pretty dope.
Agreed. And I mean, a lot of things are changing. So like we talked about this before. I coach an 8 and under softball team. I've changed how they swing, even how I was taught. And there was this thing on Sports Center. I watched it during a rain delay with the Cubs, and Alex Rodriguez talked to Chris Bryant about the new way of how people swing. And just, they look at so many things such as angles now, and it's just a little bit different than how we were taught, which was just, this is how you've done it for the past 50 years. This is how you still do it. It seems now with any sport, they are looking almost year to year it changes of ways to improve rather than this is how we did it in 1960. This is how we're going to teach you now. Right. And I do think that is a reason why some of these kids are getting better.
Sports science is a big deal. And also,
agreed.
Professional leagues now understand if they can have coaching clinics for the younger kids.
Then it's only going to benefit them.
Then it's going to benefit them in the long run. Like, I mean, just look at basketball. You could take the 13th player on a basketball team right now and move them back to the 70s, and they would probably be an all-star. Because everyone's just awesome now. Like the sport's just evolved so much.
Agreed.
So at least one little political thing. Actually, I have two little political things today. So let's do both now. One's just a statement. NRA is going to ban guns while Mike Pence is there due to safety concerns. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like the irony is crazy. That's all I just want to say.
They had a conference that they banned guns during the conference.
Right. I just think we live in a bizarre world where they can say that shit and then turn around and be like, but fuck you, we need them in schools.
Exactly.
We need them in schools.
You're not okay with having it at your own event.
And that's the thing. If they just had them at their own event, because they have, I don't know how many good guys with guns in that building, they'll take out however many bad guys with guns are there. So I just don't see... Right? If they stood by, right, I'd have so much more respect. But at the moment, I don't.
I mean, I agree with you. If they were just like, you know what, yes, we're going to allow guns, then I'd be like, you know what, I agree. At least you got one stance you're sticking to. I read
some stats. Like 92% of gun owners aren't a member of the NRA.
I'm not.
It takes me into my next political point. It's a local political event. In case you don't know, Oklahoma has the worst governor in the United States.
Yep.
At least we have for like 7.5 years.
Yeah, and she is not riding off into the sunset very easily. That's for sure.
So here's the thing. Most lame duck governors, the ones not up for re-election, so have nothing to really fight for or whatever, right? They go out on a positive note.
Yeah.
Because you know what? They're probably going to live around here. They want to make good connections so they can make money in something else when they're done. But
not our governor.
And our governor last week pissed off 3 major groups that are fairly separate
all in
from
one
each
day.
Other. Right. The first one was the Native Americans. We had this proposal to change Columbus Day or make it also known as, however they worded it, to be like Oklahoma Native American Day.
Yep.
Something to that extent. Now, if there's any state in America, besides maybe like New Mexico or the Dakotas, right, there's some places that have a lot of Native American things, but we are literally like Red Man Land, or whatever, right? Like this is the place they forced all the Indians to go.
Yeah, this was a giant reservation. I mean, when you look at the old maps of Civil War, we were the only
Indian
state
territory.
that wasn't on either side.
So if any state should have a Native American Day, it should be Oklahoma.
Agreed.
And she said no, and her reasoning was because it distracts from the fact November is our Native American History Month.
I don't understand the logic.
Neither. Makes no sense. So anyway, pissed off some natives there, which isn't smart in this place. They have more money than anybody. And
especially these Chickasaws, bro.
No joke. And then she pissed off the
LGBT, and that's as far as I know. And I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but yeah, it's gotten longer, and I just say LGBT.
With the asterisk at the bottom footnote, other.
Yeah.
Anyway, basically they signed this bill that says like faith-based organizations can handle adoptions. And in our state, that means moving forward, basically the only people who are going to be doing adoptions are going to be churches, is kind of how people are reading it.
Yep.
And basically saying they don't have to adopt a kid to a gay couple, more or less. That's what the bill is. So piss off everyone there. Where I think, and I actually was in a high school classroom today and heard about a lot of 16-year-olds' opinion on this. I'll actually get into that for a sec because it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because it reminded me of when we were in high school and how, God damn it, I wish you weren't stupid at 16. Right? And it was, this one kid was like, his first thought was exactly what my thought was of, that's so stupid. If there are people that want to care for a child and will raise them. And then it's like, so are you telling me every gay person you've ever met was raised by gay parents? No, it's not how it works. It's not how it works. Most gay people raised by straight parents. So anyway, I'm pretty sure that's the fear, right? And this kid, like I was saying, was on track and was like, if they're caring and loving, I'd rather have them. And this kid's like, you want gay parents? You want gay parents. And then it turned this whole you want gay parents joke, right? And then the kid was like, no, I'm saying, talking to a fucking wall.
Yep,
right?
It's exactly what it is.
And I remember being in these scenarios and having friends like that. But I laughed the whole time. And I wasn't laughing at the kid saying you want gay parents. I was laughing at like, of course, that's how you would react.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then the third people she upset was the gun rights activists because we were going to have an open carry law you could just carry a gun if you're over 21 or over 18 if you're in the military.
Concealed carry law. It wasn't going to have open.
Oh, okay, concealed carry law. And then she vetoed that, which a lot of liberals were happy about. But it was just funny because she pissed them off on the other stuff, and they turned around and pissed off conservatives. So she's pissing off everybody, and everyone's hating her at the moment.
Agreed. Well, and it's like your House and Senate approves it. You're like, you know what? She usually goes for what they say. She's going to do it.
Right.
My neighbor, I've talked to you about this before. He's like, I've got my right to own my gun. You don't have a right to tell me that I need to take a class.
That thing is, I almost want to argue with these high school kids because that brought up to this gun thing, right? And the teacher was kind of pitching it as how horrible would it be if someone with a mental illness just walked around with a gun? Well, that's what this law would allow. And in a way, I agree. But another way, I'm like, but if we want to get down to the words of the Constitution.
It's like if you want to argue it.
That shit says everyone has the right to bear arms. I still think felons should get to vote. I think there's a lot of things that if we look straight at the Constitution, we've perverted it through the years to where there's a lot of loopholes to jump through to make something happen, right? And I'm not saying I want everyone with a gun. I guess I'm saying, but if we're going to use that amendment.
Then if you're going to use the argument, use the full argument. Don't use a piece of it.
Right. So that's where I guess, and I'm totally not normally on the pro-gun side, but it was just like, well, y'all are sounding stupid, so I feel like I need to make this point because I can't not.
And I was talking about this, and my problem is I was conflicted because if somebody was to go through the class that I went through with regards to concealed carry,
very much little difference.
It's just there's no difference in that and just obtaining it. Now, I did see where I think it was the OSBI was saying, well, there's going to be policies removed where it's going to check certain areas for people who should purchase guns. Now, I do think that is a problem because it says it checks through all of your mental background checks, and that's crazy that it does only take about 15 minutes for that to happen. That's fantastic.
Right.
If that's actually what happens. I don't really know. I bought mine through Academy. They were real quick on getting me my gun. Not a problem. It was on a Black Friday. In and out.
I'm just waiting until I can get one off Amazon and ship to me because I don't like going to the store.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I go to a store to buy a gun, it's going to be like when you go to like when I go to get my fishing license, right? And I don't look like the type of guy that would fish necessarily.
Yeah.
And they look at you like, fishing license. And they kind of judge. So I'd honestly feel the same way about a gun. I'd be like, well, fuck you.
So I'm glad you bring that up. I've purchased ammo. I've been buying quite a bit whenever, especially goes on sale with Academy. And one thing that it clicked to me whenever I was buying it, I go, how is anyone who is, I don't know, under 18 that has their parents' credit card, how would they, deter these people from purchasing it? Oh, it's the little box at the bottom that you check that says I'm 18 years old.
Oh, okay.
Because, of course, that is the easiest way. Not that you need to put in a birthday.
I mean, we do the same thing before we were 18 on pornography websites. It goes, what's your birthday? And you're like, well, I'm 15.
And then you got to figure out
I was born in
88.
So I guess I was born in 85. Here we go.
But it's just like, I got to click this box, and yes, I'm 18 years old, and we're good to go.
Right. And something I was going to say, but because I had mentioned pornography, I thought about this randomly the other day when I was listening to a podcast, because people were telling a story of how, like, they found porn in the woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has that moment when they were a child and they first saw pornography, right?
Yep. My stepdad actually handed me a box of it.
Right. Me and Chris, I think, mentioned it last week briefly. But I feel like you're going to have porno mags somewhere hidden in your house so that when Saya and Paul come to age, they can go through that manhood experience of finding.
Yeah.
Because that's a way different experience than someday when they're going to get the internet.
Yeah. I mean.
Then I'm sure parents can't stop shit these days.
No.
I haven't even thought
with a cell phone with internet.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
I mean, I'm sure some parents are smart enough to have like a VPN that reroutes and block shit and all this.
Of course, because, parents know how to,
but not
turn off their router.
Right.
So one thing I do want to bring up, maybe a couple on political, I don't really know yet, but one of them is this, the embassy opening up in Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah. This is what I exactly told to some of my coworkers today when I saw the people getting shot and killed, right? And I've kind of mentioned this here. I just don't understand why we back Jerusalem no matter what.
Agreed.
These motherfuckers are protesting, lighting cars on fire, and I'm sure that smoke, I'm sure really is distracting. But killing them.
41 of them.
For protesting, I mean, it's going to happen anyway. And I understand there's some people that say we're fulfilling a biblical prophecy, by moving the embassy. I think it's not really fulfilling a prophecy, or maybe it is, when you already know what it is. Like if someone has a book that's like, here's what you're supposed to do, follow it.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's where I was going.
Okay.
So we have an ex-mutual co-worker that is pretty religious. She sent me this link that I was looking at today, and her husband is a huge Trump supporter.
Right.
Hardcore, right? And
you missed me giving praise to him last week.
Oh, really?
I've turned around a little bit on North Korea.
Okay.
I think he deserves some credit. I think he should probably share a Nobel Peace Prize with probably the president of South Korea and the president of China, and they should probably split it, because I do think in some way his crazy Twitter antics.
Oh, I'm not going to take anything away from that.
It's like his strength and weakness are the same thing. He's
For
like
sure. Don't get me wrong. I do think that I'm just going to say whatever I want because people are like, you know what? This dude's actually that crazy. He don't give a shit.
Right.
He'll
crash our stock market.
Exactly. He don't care.
He'll get China jobs.
So I do think that he does deserve some credit. I don't want to take away from that.
Right.
But
anyway,
this link had it where it was fulfilling the prophecy in Revelations that they would move this over. And I was like, so you're telling me.
I think it all says like 2/3 of the population has to die or something. Are we going to fulfill that?
Well, and I'm just like, so wait, so you are agreeing that he is the Antichrist? Is that what you're telling me? Like, is that where we're going with this?
Well, maybe the evangelicals changed their strategy where they were like, well, if the Antichrist has to come before Christ comes,
Oh my, yeah. But I was just like, I didn't see that coming from her because again, they were very pro-Trump. I'm like, so are you for him or are you against him now? Because now I'm confused.
Right.
Are you wanting him to fulfill this prophecy or are you not?
Well, as soon as he visits the embassy in Jerusalem, I'm sure light will shine down and unlock some secret gates and shit. It's gonna be crazy.
Exactly.
The last thing I'll try to keep to that's not super positive. I don't know how to word that. I always talk about things I hate about Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Mother's Day is an example of what I hate about Facebook.
Oh my God.
Now, I said this, and my wife had done it, and then she thought I was hating on her. And I'm not really hating on the people who do it as much as the fact that people feel the need. So anyway, what happens every Mother's Day is I wake up, and maybe I'll get on Facebook because it'll be like, you have memories with so-and-so, and I'll click it.
That's actually the number one reason why.
And I'm like, wonder what I did 8 years ago. And it's like us not looking at our best, right? And something. So anyway, and everyone's on Facebook, and they're like, let me write a 2-paragraph love letter to my mother. And then everyone else feels like they have to do it because they're all trying to outdo each other to impress their own moms, which guess who the only person you don't have to try to impress is? Your mom. Mm-hmm. You know what I did? I saw her in person and gave her a card and a gift. Didn't do shit on Facebook because that's weird. Now, when my wife realized I wasn't and I was doing this rant for her, she went and did one for me. Of like for my mom under her page, right? Because she knew my mom would want that.
Yep.
But I was like, fuck this and fuck this system.
Yeah,
I already did enough.
I seen where Jim Carrey posts about it. It's like I done messed up and accidentally called my mom or a face-to-face conversation with my mom or something like that.
Right. And I really didn't want to say this one because I do have a friend who lost his mother recently, and that one was sad, right? It happened like a month ago. So that would be horrible. But all these people whose parents died like years and years ago, and I hate to say it, I know it's horrible, but it's like, I read it as I better go on Facebook and let people know on their happy day that my mother's dead. So I'm going to put a picture of me hugging a tombstone, or I'm going to put this thing of, I miss you, Mom. And I'm like, I'm sure those thoughts come through your head. But to me as an outsider, I just feel like you want attention for the fact your mom died. That's just weird to me. So I don't want to hate too hard, but that is my first kind of thought when I see it.
I mean, I've seen a couple people that, now don't get me wrong, I do, especially if it was very recently. Right. I understand that.
I totally
but like,
that.
I have one friend on there that their mother passed away in high school. I'm like, no offense, like not saying that that's not hard because I've not lived with that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is difficult.
But it does seem like it's a little bit attention grabbing.
I'm extremely introverted. So if my mom was dead, I probably would never talk about it out in front of people.
Well, I have no problem talking to people at all, obviously, but
I don't think you would and again, I just see it as attention seeking.
Well, not only that, but number one, I just don't post on Facebook.
Yeah, me either.
I don't think you should put all of your life story out in public. I do think most of it should stay between you and those people.
Right.
That's what makes it, to me, that true love style or whatever you want to call it. I just have a problem with how many people do it. To me, they're posting on Facebook to show, this is how much I love my mom. How much do you love yours?
Right.
I called my mom.
Right.
I was like, hey, Mom, love you. Happy Mother's Day. She was out fishing. Asked how her day was. That's about it.
Right.
Okay, I don't need to post on Facebook. Don't get me wrong. I think my mom is definitely someone who would love that, but that's just not me. And I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
And I hope as her son, she would realize for me never posting on Facebook unless it's either this podcast or something I think that I really want to post about, which is maybe once every 3 months. It's not that big of a deal.
So the best news I've heard this week is there are rumors of a Pick of Destiny 2. Tenacious D movie.
Yeah, did you post something about? Someone posted it on Facebook.
They may have. I saw it on Reddit where the rumors were reported. So anyway, that would be really awesome. Something I've noticed, and I'm probably just way behind because like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to stay up on this whole rap music, right? Check out the new shit. The Catch Me Outside girl is like a almost legitimate rapper, like legitimate enough that she has like real music videos that get like millions of views on YouTube. She's not very good. But I was just surprised to see that because I was going through all these videos and I was like, wait, that's the Catch Me Outside girl. And I think she's done really well for herself for the fact she went from Dr. Phil to that.
No offense, but she got there based on other people liking her.
Right. I mean,
to me, that's
clearly,
a hustle.
I don't know if she's an idiot or not. And
maybe
that's
she plays an idiot and she's really not. I don't know. But I mean, there's no way. I mean, I feel like.
No way to know.
Exactly. There's no way to know, but I feel like she is. But I feel like maybe that is just her, her character that she's playing.
And then I have this new app, if anyone's interested in it, called Hiya. It's Hiya. And it's like a caller ID for your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I installed it because I've been getting a lot of spam calls, which I'm sure a lot of people have. It's been a big thing that's happening lately.
Yep.
And it just, if enough people have it, and then you mark it as spam through that, then anyone else who has it would know that. And then also if somebody calls you and you don't have their number, but someone else did have their number, it's like basically making a caller ID network, if that makes sense. So anyway, I've used it a lot to block a lot of spam calls so far. So if you're having that problem, I recommend Hiya.
I've honestly, it's really stopped. I was getting them towards the beginning of the year.
Well, see, I get them when they start with the same 6 numbers that my phone does or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really got any recently, but yeah, if I do, I'll definitely download it. So there's 2 things I want to bring up. One, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been another breach.
At Chili's.
Yes. So for March and April, if anyone went to Chili's,
I did not.
Me neither. If they use a debit or credit card, then they have the potential, because they have not said how many of their 1,600 stores were involved in this. Now, the one thing I'll give to Chili's is they released this information the day that they found out.
Right.
Not like Equifax that waits, 8 months or whatever it is.
No, man,
and then says, we're going to offer this identity theft program for you to have for free, and then you're going to pay for it the next year. Anyways, so I do commend them on that. Do think it's crazy that it did take 2 months for them to actually find out. I understand sometimes you're not going to know for a while.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people's debit cards get hacked, right, in certain ways. And so I'm sure there had to be some card company that noticed a trend that all these people went to chill it. So I'm sure there is some investigation that has to go into it, maybe.
Yeah.
I made friends in Fortnite. 2 friends.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't talk to people typically online.
Mm-hmm.
And then last week, there was one guy named DJ J Smooth or something like that. I don't quite remember his name. But he was a cool black guy, and he just had the same strategy of let's go away from everybody and collect shit first. So I added him as a friend because he was cool. And then this other guy I met, there was 2 people on my microphone. I mute my microphone if I'm not playing with you typically. Yeah. And there's this little kid, and he was all like, I got this house, I got this house, I got this house. And this other guy goes, about to get my dick in your mouth if you don't shut up. And I laughed really hard, right? And then Coopie thought it was fucked up that I laughed at that joke. She's like, that's a pedophile joke. And I'm like, that doesn't mean like that.
In video games, though.
Right, it's funny as shit.
It's a little different.
And then the little kid goes, well, I'm not going to revive you if you die. And that kid goes, well, I ain't going to revive you. So anyway, that's how that went. And then at the end, towards the end, we were doing pretty good. And the older guy was reviving me, and he thought I was a little kid. And he was like, I'm going to revive you even though I said I wouldn't. And then I turned my mic on and go, I'm not that fucking little kid. I was like, he stole a potion from me. I hate that fucker. And then me and this old guy just kept hating on this little kid. And then halfway through us making fun of him, I felt kind of bad.
Yeah.
And then the guy that I was talking to, all of a sudden, his like little 3-year-old girl being like, "Daddy, help me with this." He's like, "All right, sweetheart, in a minute." After he's been yelling at this other kid to suck his dick and shit.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. So I had him as friends on Fortnite.
For sure. So speaking of that, before I get to this next thing, me and Dom and Wyatt were playing on Fortnite, and I was the party leader, and I forgot click don't feel. So we got this random guy named Voltag. Okay. So we're playing, and I'm talking mad shit about this dude because he's way off to the side. Right. Nowhere near us.
And he turns on his mic.
Well, it takes a minute till we go, you know what? I don't know where we landed at. Maybe it's Tomato Town, somewhere stupid.
Right.
Where there's all these people. Kill a few people, and then all three of us just die real quick.
Right.
Well, we don't die. We get knocked down. And then all of a sudden he turns to Mike and was like, "I got you guys." Comes out of nowhere, saves all of us. And I'm just like, for a good 5 minutes straight, we were talking shit.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, this dude saves us, so that we add him on there. But it is fun to play with some of these people that don't talk.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, okay, you're all right.
Well, sometimes they ask to have a mic and I just don't respond.
Yeah.
Everyone asks me and I'm just like, I'm not talking to you, motherfuckers.
And most of them are young kids that ask it.
And then all day, for the last 3 days, I had one challenge to get of getting explosive kills. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. I got them both today, the last two, so finish that off. But in that, I was in with a squad in which we all just kept reviving each other. It was the weird, like, I've never, like, we probably every person probably was revived 7 times.
Really?
Like, we just got in a gunfight, and one of us would finish them off, and then go and revive the others.
Revive them? That's impressive.
We ended up getting, like...
True team.
Right. And we didn't have good weapons.
Yeah.
One guy was real good at building, but it was kind of too crazy. I didn't know. I kept getting trapped in his shit.
Yeah.
And I was just going to hang out until someone came up on us. But anyway, Fortnite's been pretty fun. My goal is to get every weekly challenge for this season. And if I do that, I'll feel real good about myself. I'm 2 for 2 so far.
Heck yeah, man. So I was going to ask you, have you seen this Justice for Noir? I probably said her name wrong.
I don't guess so.
So what it is it's a Sudan woman. She's 19 years old.
Okay.
She was forced to marry this man at 16 years old by her father.
And then she killed him.
Yes.
My thought, I go to this. Back in like the 70s, the Peace Corps, they went to Africa, and there was this African tribe that all they did was hunt giraffes. They would kill a giraffe and would feed their family or their whole village for like a month because the giraffes are fucking huge. And they just got drunk and had sex all day and ate their giraffes. And then Peace Corps came in and they go, "Hey, y'all are backwards. Y'all need to integrate with society." And they forced them to live like Westerners in these big African cities.
Yeah.
96% of those descendants are alcoholics or on a welfare program because they were not made for that shit. They weren't raised for that shit, right? So, I know it doesn't have exactly a lot to do with that, but just the idea of, I don't know if it's our place to fuck with someone's culture on our own. It's kind of like the Stargate method. Like, you don't want to mess with it too much. Now, if someone's drafted on Revolution anyway, or they're like there, right?
Then you may be able to push.
Right, like kind of like with the democracy thing. Like, I don't think us going into any country and forcing democracy is going to help. You know what is going to help is when their own people realize that's whatever they want, they want,
push for it,
and they push for it. Right.
Agreed.
And I guess that's kind of where like I'm sure it's horrible what's happened to this girl, and I think she killed the guy. Right, and now she's on trial, and they're going to kill her.
She was 17 years old. She refused to have sex with him, and so he brought his cousins over to hold her down while he raped her.
Right.
Well, then they left, and he tried to do it again. She got to the kitchen, got a knife, and fatally killed him. Or some fatal stab wounds. So she's been in prison for the last year. And instead of
was her reasoning just she wasn't attracted, or
no? She didn't want to marry him.
Okay.
But of course she didn't have an option. The father says you're.
I mean, there's just a lot of cultures around this world where people married where they didn't.
And so she kills this guy, goes back to her home, and her father turns her into the police. So instead of the dead husband's family, they opted to not receive financial compensation, but also on retribution. So they sentenced her to death. So it's caused a huge outrage in that area. I mean, this courtroom has hundreds of people packed.
Right.
Because apparently it's not done throughout all of Sudan. It's only done in certain parts or certain community.
There's places in America right now where teenage girls are more or less being sold off to the hospital or to an old man in some organization. I won't say religion necessarily, but in something, right?
Yeah.
And that just happens. Like, I remember watching the gypsy stories, and the gypsies have this sort of weird thing like that. Again, it is horrible, but I don't know if we can police everyone to live their life one way.
No, I mean, my only thing is,
I mean, I wish someone could have helped her escape before it got to that.
Agreed. And that's the thing is,
run away before they're forced you to do that.
I just don't know how, as a parent, you know your daughter's going to get raped because she doesn't want this, and you know he's going to get what he wants. And apparently he was an abusive husband anyway. I don't how you don't realize this is. I couldn't put my kid through that ever.
Right. But I mean, it's just it's a.
I guess it's just a culture,
thing.
and that's just how you're raised. I can't even fathom thinking about it, let alone acting on it.
In Africa, there are so many different tribes, and each tribe has their own cultures and traditions. I understand why other people are like, "What the fuck?" Because they're probably from a different tribe with different cultures and traditions, right?
Agreed.
So it's a whole hodgepodge of a mess over there. I'm sure. All right, my little Netflix check-in for the week.
Okay.
More or less last 2 weeks. I've only watched one episode, but it's a show I think you would like a lot, and I briefly told you about it, called Lost in Space, based on that old 1950s thing. I don't think I brought it up on the podcast before. I don't think
so.
But I know you have an 11-year-old that hangs out at your house from time to time, and I just think it's a good family show. PG, and I don't even normally like PG stuff. It's already been renewed for a second season, so it's something to get into, you know. So recommend that. I brought up Black Mirror last week with Chris. Watched the first 3 episodes of that. Highly recommend it to everybody. I think every episode's like a big makes you think type of thing. Like you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? And then you just think of, if I was in that world, what would I do in this, and this scenario, right?
Yeah.
Haven't quite got the wife on board yet, but getting close. Watched a documentary 4-part series called Trump: An American Dream.
Okay.
I think it gives a very unbiased and good look at Trump's whole life right up until he runs for president. So the last one, he's running for president. They talk about the wall and stuff briefly, but it stops pretty early in, right? Yeah. And it was done by Channel 4, which is a UK channel. So I think it was unbiased. Like, it talks to his friends and also people that didn't like him, people, you know, he made a lot of money for, people he didn't pay. Kind of goes in, like, I think it all kind of changed once he got in the Atlantic City thing. When he started cheating on his first wife, I think for a while he was like, no, I'm just gonna be a rich, like, prototypical alpha male man, right? And like that dream of the 1980s dude. And then I think somewhere his ego got really big. There are a lot of times watching and I'm like, G move, that's a gangster move. Yeah. Like, basically the way he got involved with his debt is he just launched a public company called the Trump Organization that sold nothing at the moment, and it was just his name, and he made $1.2 billion in like a day and then paid off all of his debt on that.
That's hustle.
Right. I mean, it's doing nothing and doing something. It's like, is he a genius? I don't know, but he has. Good for him, right?
I do think he is a business genius. I mean, there's no other way. I mean, he's made a lot of money.
I'm okay with the fact I don't think he's necessarily a good person. He's president. I just want a president that seems smart. Now, maybe he's pretending all this because they get into it a lot of, he followed Jesse Ventura's governor run, and then some other people had this off-brand stuff, and he actually saw a lot of strategy from them.
And Jesse Ventura is nuts.
Right. And they just noticed negative things work, you know, and they just did different stuff. So I just really appreciate the documentary. I think I have a different look on him. You know, I still disagree with a lot of stuff he says, right? Yep. But I do think it's a pretty good documentary. But I do think people who feel, however you feel about him, you will leave probably feeling the same way. Yeah. Like, if you love him, you're going to be like, genius. And if you hate him, you're probably like, douchebag, right? I don't think it's going to change your opinion probably too much, but it does give a lot of backstory if you don't know Trump's whole history. For sure. I did not.
Yeah, I hear you. So the last thing I've got is there was another predator, an ancient one that was found in Transylvania.
You're going to say another Predator trailer for the movie coming out.
Oh, there is.
I know.
First off, have you seen that?
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it.
I'm like, okay, I get it. It does involve a little bit of the Predator past and how it's bringing it back. I think it could be cool. I just think Predator's been done quite a bit. Right. I don't know if it's going to be good. I'll probably end up watching it because I do like Predator.
You like action movies
agreed.
In general.
So they found this reptile fossil that is now can boast that it's the largest, and I probably will not say this name properly, pterosaur, which is, I think of pterodactyl.
Right.
But the bottom jaw was 3.5 to just over 4 foot long. That's what they're projecting it, because obviously they only have bones, not what the skin would be.
Right.
But the wingspan is 26 to 29 feet.
Fuck that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Now, the one that they found in Mongolia actually has a 30-foot or 36-foot wingspan. And they are now saying that
The Mongols were shorter because Genghis Khan killed all the tall people.
Yep. But it is crazy that we are finding more and more larger dinosaurs now, or at least recently, than we have in the past. You would just assume those ones would be found first, but maybe not.
Depends where you look.
I guess, and I guess that's really it. But I mean, looking at the picture,
it really depends where the government planted the bones for us to find them.
because dinosaurs weren't real.
Right.
That's all a made up, just like the Holocaust. But no, this thing is terrifying.
I have photos for that.
I mean, it is just terrifying looking at it. But then it got me thinking when I brought up, they wouldn't find it. How do they find this stuff? Do they just start digging and go, you know what? There could be a fossil.
Well, I have a friend who's in the field. Maybe I'll ask him. I think they just find someone who gives them permission to look at a place.
And they just start digging?
I just don't know how they get to the idea of how I want to look at that place.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you get to where, we're going to dig here and find a...
It's a basin. I bet they hung out there.
Exactly right.
Though I guess the last thing I'll bring up, another show I started because Snappy texts me, and Snappy's never texted me with a recommendation to watch of anything. And he's like, you got to watch a show called Evil Genius on Netflix.
Okay.
Started today. I've watched the first 2 episodes. It is also a 4-part documentary. Do you remember in 2003, you may vaguely, the guy that robbed a bank with a bomb around his neck? It was like a big news story or whatever. And then that movie, 30 Minutes or Less, with Danny McBride and Jesse Eisenberg, I think was loosely based on this.
Okay.
It's set around that, but there's also these other murders that happen. It's a crazy show. But Snappy texts me, I just watched episode 3. Like, episode 3 is the good one, and I just finished episode 2. So apparently it's going to get way better. But if people want to check that out, I'm sure I'll talk about it if it leaves a mark on me, It's next week. So anyway, Evil Genius, so far, pretty good.
For sure.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're actually going to have Coopie on with us, because we're going to do top 5 favorite books.
Yeah.
And she likes books. I don't think it's going to be her all-time favorite because she reads too much for that.
She's read like 39,000 books this year. It's ridiculous.
I think she's on 16 or 17.
Yeah, it's probably more than I've read my entire life.
So we'll do that, and then she might want to talk about some book shit,
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll be back. All right, and we're back. So, Powwow.
All right, so if anyone has any questions, suggestions, or corrections, please email us at thepowwowwithmo@gmail.com. That is THEPOWWOWWITHMO@gmail.com.
And again, no emails this week, but we do have Coopie on.
Sweet.
Coopie has a new obsession. Since I know all about it, I'm going to let her tell you, Powwow, about it. Okay. You can ask her any questions you may have.
All right.
All right, so hi everyone. Okay, my new obsession is
books.
Well, I've always loved books, but now with the craze of subscription boxes, I have found a book subscription box called Owlcrate, and it is something that I have really enjoyed.
So the subscription is called Owlcrate.
Yes, okay. That's the company. It's a
kind of like Loot Crate. You know how people get the nerd stuff? Loot Crate? It's like that.
But these come with books. Well, it comes with one book. Every month, it's a newly released hardback special edition cover signed by the author. It comes with a letter from the author and all kinds of other bookish related fandom goodies. And I like 5 to 6 other items in the box as well. And so it all has like a fun theme that goes together. It's really cool. The first box I got was a sci-fi box, which is not my normal genre, but the book was beautiful. It had purple sprayed pages.
It was cool.
It was really cool. It was called Heart of Iron by Ashley Poston. It was good.
Totally a great book.
It was very much like if you like Star Wars, you would like this book. Their boxes are geared like young adult fiction, so ages 13 and up would be appropriate. They have another subscription, like sub-subscription you could get called Guerrero Jr. And it's ages 8 to 12. And I wish my niece were old enough to get it because that would be like the perfect gift for her. She would love it. So someday, maybe.
For sure.
About a few years.
So, I do have a couple questions on this. So, you don't get to choose your books, obviously. It's just something random that you're going to receive.
Right. There are other subscriptions out there where you can pick like a genre that you like, or maybe that come with like 3 books in a box, and that's all that's in the box, but you get more than one, so you get some variety. But yeah, that's kind of the fun in it. It's a surprise.
So you don't know if you're going to like it or you're going to hate it.
True. And for example, the February box sounded like a really awesome box. I didn't get that one. It was the one before. I got the March box first.
Okay.
But the February box was one called the Hazelwood, and I had heard about it, and so I bought it. Totally hated it, didn't like it. And so had I gotten the February box, that would have been the book.
Gotcha.
So there's always a chance, you run a risk, but I think it's better to give a book a shot than never try it at all.
I don't know about that rule, but I mean, I'd be all right with it. So when you get these, let's say you don't like the book. Mm-hmm. Can I be like, hey, can I return this for another one?
No, but what I have found out is there is an Owl Crate buy sell trade page, and you can flip it, basically. There are some people who just buy the boxes just to unpack them and sell each item individually. And
so they're getting a hustle on with some books.
Yeah, they'll get like twice as much.
What'd you buy?
I bought the 6-month subscription to Owl Crate.
No, I'm off the buy sell trade page.
Oh, so wait, you... Oh. Hold on. Let's back up. So you not only subscribe, you also buy an extra books, because, not enough in that 6 months there to sustain you.
Well,
you get, one book a month?
I buy way more than one book a month. It's kind of ridiculous.
So,
but I can read a book in about a week.
Insane.
So, no, it's not. There are some people who read like 30 books in a month. I don't know how they do it.
They don't have a life. I don't see how you can read that much.
They lie.
That's right.
Well, I think a lot of people listen to audiobooks, and so they can multitask while they do that.
But to me, you're not really paying attention.
If you're not with the book in your hand, it's hard for sure. Yeah, I think you miss out on details and subtle things like that, unless you're just like you're someone who can't sit down and read. Like there are people who just do not enjoy reading, and so that's a good alternative for them.
For sure.
I'm sure they get a lot out of it, more so than maybe I would.
So let me ask you this: how much is this 6-month Owl Crate subscription? Because I would assume it's like $30.
Yeah, basically it's $27.99 plus shipping and handling
for the 6 months.
No, per month.
So each book is going to be $26. Each box.
Each box, and remember the book is an exclusive cover. It's like
signed by the author.
One-time print, one-time first edition run. They're not going to make more of them like that. So, granted, you don't know if that book is ever going to be more valuable, but it's still special, and it makes it.
So let me ask you: is there anything different from that book to a less expensive book of that exact same kind?
No, not necessarily, except you get a letter from the author, a handwritten letter from the author. Well, of course, it's copied, but it's in their original handprint. But the book itself is signed by the author.
I mean, I guess I just
comes with other stuff. It's not just the book.
Yeah, like okay. So, for example, the last book, the box is called Shadows and Secrets. Here's a little spoiler card if you want to look at it.
Wait, so they don't just send you the book. They're gonna go, here's the spoiler card
for next month.
Well, this is a spoiler card for next month. That's like, I guess I should say more of a postcard.
So why would you get a spoiler card for next month?
It only tells you one sneak peek item.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like the spoiler of the book.
This was the one that explains all the items in the current box. So it was Shadows and Secrets. So it was a book called Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. And it was kind of like this gritty city, kind of like a Sin City. She said she actually based it more on Atlantic City than Vegas, but it's a lot of gambling and there's a boardwalk and all that. But there's some magical realism that goes into it. But the whole box was kind of geared around these gritty, dark cities. So we had pencils, Harry Potter themed pencils, but they were like the mischievous ones, like Mischief Managed and things like that. Came with some delicious coffee from a company called Bones Coffee Company.
So they tried to get you to buy other stuff on top of their books.
Well, they're not necessarily trying to get you to buy other stuff, but you do get like coupons and stuff that
That's
come
pretty
in the
sweet.
box. And I've already decided, like I ordered, like in the first box, it came with a candle that was book themed, and I loved the candle and went on their website, and they have it's called Wiccan Fable. They have tons of cool bookish fandom candles, and I ended up buying my sister some Gilmore Girls themed candles for
Sweet.
Christmas, and I'm going to get my brother-in-law some coffee from Bones Coffee Company for Christmas. And the cool thing about the businesses is they're not major corporations, they're small businesses that have small shops online and things like that. So they're trying to promote other small businesses, because Alcrate itself is only run by 5 people, and they have
It's impressive.
only been in business for 3 years, and they have, like, for example, on Twitter, or on Instagram, I just saw they shared over 170,000 followers
It's insane.
in 3 years. They have it's pretty impressive. They ship internationally. They are based in Canada, but they ship out of U.S.
So they're not America.
No, they drive across the border and ship out the U.S.
There's a packing company in Oregon that
Wait, why don't-
It's cheaper.
they ship they have all of their items sent to this family-run packing company in Oregon. And they pack the boxes and ship them out
So
of
they
Oregon.
smuggle them across the border and have
No,
them
you
shipped.
pay. They're not smuggled.
So let me ask you: is the only reason you went with this company is because they're owls on the front of their logo?
Well, that was definitely an appeal. The
That was the deciding factor, wasn't it?
curator is a huge Harry Potter fan, so
That's what decided for you.
yeah. Well, it was also all the fun goodies, like Mo was saying earlier about the other item I bought on the Alcrate Buy Sell Trade page. Was like this awesome pillowcase, and I went out of my way just to buy it because I really liked it. And I just think they have really cool things in their boxes.
Made a PayPal account for the first time to buy this pillowcase.
It's inspired by
Wait, hold
Sleeping
on, hold on,
Beauty,
hold on,
and
we
it
gotta
says
back up a
Once
second.
Upon a Dream, and it's so cute.
You haven't created a PayPal account until now?
Yeah, I don't.
It's a little crazy.
I have one now, and I have used it way too much.
So you should have never done it. You should have
I
stuck with
went
not
from
doing
0 to 60 on PayPal.
it. Jesus, that's crazy. Well, that's cool. So I mean, anyone out there, Owl Crate? It's OWL. Totally thought that was
Owl.
like AL, like Owl Crate, not Owl Crate.
Like in Harry Potter, they get the owl mail, the owl post. And
Sure,
so
Ron's bird, then you just fly into shit.
All right, so we're going to move on to our top 5 list.
All right.
And this week we are doing top 5 favorite books.
Yep.
I personally always hated reading books.
Agreed.
I defend myself by saying I played so many RPGs on the PlayStation 1 that were just as long as any novel you read as a kid, probably longer, that I'm decent enough at reading.
Mm-hmm.
But then one of the things that's on my list and on your list changed the game,
Agreed.
and I started reading as an adult.
I never understood the argument that a book was better than a movie
Right.
until this series that I know we both have on here.
Right, and now there's millions of examples, but
For sure.
well, real quick, because it's not even on my list. The first example of how I knew books were better than movies was in 6th grade. We read Summer of the Monkeys.
Okay.
We read this book, and it was it really captured your imagination in 6th grade, right? And you really liked it. And that happened to be the same year the movie came out on like straight to DVD sort of thing, right? And so our teacher was like, it came out like the week we finished the book. It just happened to work out. And then we watched the movie, and it was horrible. They changed the monkeys to chimps. They went from 100 monkeys to 5 chimps, and just they changed so much shit. And I remember all of us, even the jockiest of the kid that would never read, being like, "Why would they change that book?" Like we all learned a lesson that day. That's just how, and we should have remembered then. But I've been disappointed with almost every book adaptation since.
well, sometimes though it can make it fun because I can remember reading, for example, I'm going to go there, Twilight, and being totally pumped for the movies. And of course, I would never have cast Kristen Stewart as Bella. I was totally wanting Alexis Bledel to play that role. But it's fun sometimes when it's like a current thing and you're currently reading the book and you want to go see the movie. But yeah, it never have expectations of the movie being better.
Well, I just have the whole recency bias of a book movie that I was like, God damn. But I knew it the whole time. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I'll watch a movie and then I'm like, oh, this is based on a book, and I'll go read the book. Like something could make me interested enough through that, which again, we'll get to my list. I'm basically describing all this. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get into it. Powwow, we're going to go ahead and start with your number 5. which is called
I don't know. So this is why I need some help from people out there. I will find this 3x5 sticky note that I have that has all of the books that I've read on it, and it's about a murder mystery. First off, let me start here. I got a few books from Mo's mom that I was like, cool, I'm gonna read these books and see how it is. She recommended them. Did not realize these are murdering sex books.
Yeah, so growing up, my mom read a lot, and they have this deal at the library. It was like you bring in a book, you could just trade out books you own for books they have at the library, some sort of deal with all the romance novels. So she had like all those, the Fabio covers. So my mom,
bodice rippers.
And I tried to call her in the break to see if she could help you out the title, but she's read hundreds and hundreds of these, and she was like, I have no idea. So
yeah, I mean, because she just had them in this little wicker basket, and I grabbed a couple of them, and it's about it's based in Louisiana, excuse me, and there's murdering going on. Murdering. Where this attorney comes back that lived there. She's wanting to help out the people that are there. There's someone that asked her to come back. Basically what's going on is that, and I believe it ended up being the mayor, now that I'm thinking about it more and more, or whoever was that area, was running it in that parish. And she's trying to figure it out, talking to people. And then there's this real southern guy living down there that apparently they liked each other back in the day, but never really happened. And they end up hooking up later on, which was very vivid of how that happened. Again, that's when I was like, hey, Mo, gonna let you know what your mom's reading, bro.
Yep.
That was intense. And this guy is basically taking these women, raping them, cutting them up, and putting them in the swamp. And there, I just remember explicitly that there is this, he's a con artist preacher, really. That was just going around saying that he's going to help people.
A preacher, you say.
That says he's going to be able to help people out, gives them money.
Right. Sounds like you're describing True Detective.
Well, I remember when you told me about it, I remember thinking, I watched a movie real similar to this like 5 years ago, and you read this like 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 6 years ago.
And so I don't know how old it is. I don't know who wrote it.
I have no idea at all. I have no idea who the author is.
I never read it, but I remember when you read it, you were really like, it was pretty good. Like
I got real into it. It was just a little crazy about how they couldn't figure out who it was, and then I realized whenever I was reading these murder mystery novels that it's always the person you least expect. So then I started...
But the person you least expect, now you expect the most.
Exactly. And so it caused problems, especially...
It has to be Phyllis.
One of these later books. But I don't know the name of it. I've got to figure out what it was. I just remember for the week or whatever that it took me to read that at work.
Travis, program an algorithm that can discover this for Powwow.
Because that was back then when we had plenty of time to read books.
Right.
And I was so entrenched in that book for quite some time that it made me be like, okay, you know what? I'm good with reading some more books. And then my number one's actually kind of what started all this. But yeah, that's my number 5. Don't know what the name of it is, but there you go.
All right,
We're on the lookout.
And what is your number 5?
All of my books are from series, so it's not necessarily the first
that was a
book
rule
that's my favorite.
That we didn't really bring up, but we did establish is you can't, like, if you can have a whole series account for one book, because that's a lot of mine are too.
Yep.
All right, so my number 5 is The Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson, and it's hard to put this book in a category. It definitely has magic. It opens up in what feels like 1400s.
But it's kind of has that, from what I remember you telling about it, it's like that Horizon Zero Dawn thing where it's like so far in the future, it's the past.
Yeah, you slowly learn things like this. The main character she's discovered she's a princess. She turns 19 and she's going to have to go and take over the crown. Her mother has been dead for a long time and her throne has been occupied by regents, and now it's her turn. She's got to go and fight off her uncle and take her throne back. Basically, it's book 1. But throughout all this, like, you learn that she has this box, and in it are coins, and they have this mysterious bearded man, and so it's the penny.
She's got coins and a bearded man in her box. Gotcha.
Anyway.
And Emma Watson may play the character if it gets
Well,
made to
the
a movie.
movie has been in, quote, production for a long time. I'm not sure if it will ever happen.
Well, and the main character is supposed to start ugly and get pretty, and so it's like...
She has these
Emma
magic
Watson.
jewel necklaces, sapphire necklaces, and as she wears them, she starts to change.
Right. I remember you really liked it, and then also a kind of clarification for your list personally. Yours are mainly newer books you've read recently, right?
Yeah,
These aren't
in the
like your
last-
all-time favorite.
Yeah, in the last couple years, like there's so many classics that I could put on this list and would never even get to touch like current books. So I just went with kind of recent reads. Some of them are like that are my favorite are Givens, like To Kill a Mockingbird. It's one of the best books ever, but it's not on my top 5 list for this podcast. These
Right.
are more recent reads.
Gotcha.
But as for Queen of the Tearling, I just have to throw out a shout out to one of my favorite characters. His name is the Mace. He's like this awesome father figure, and he wields a badass mace, and he just...
I would hope so. With the name of the mace, if he did anything
And
else.
he has a bow.
Exactly.
He's an archer.
And there's also this priest figure who is not a corrupt priest like the one in Powwow's book. He's actually one of
Good
the...
guy.
He's a good guy. He really values books, and in this world...
Well, the
there's
first
no
time for
printing.
everything.
There's no printing press, so books are rare.
No.
So
I mean, that makes total sense, though, because, like I said, it feels like the 1400s. In the 1400s, the only people that did value books were monks and priests.
but you don't want the sorry people to have access
Right.
to books. And Queen Kelsey wants to make like a public library. That's one of her things she wants to do. But throughout the books, it actually jumps back in time, and you learn about
She's, like, magically connected to an ancestor.
and like what we would consider modern day for us. So,
Right, but it's the past for them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of got these weird time jumps, and people who've read it kind of sometimes criticize it. But I think if you stick with the whole trilogy, you really can enjoy it. I personally really liked it a lot. So I would recommend The Queen of the Tearling, maybe a movie someday with Emma Watson. Let's hope.
Okay, my number 5 is a book by Ayn Rand, who gets discussed a lot. And the name of the book is Fountainhead. And I could be wrong. It might be called The Fountainhead, but I didn't really look it up to double check, right?
It's just Fountainhead.
All right, we're going just Fountainhead. So it's basically a story of these two architects. And one's an architect that's like, hey, why don't you just make shit the way you need? You need 3 bedrooms, a bathroom, that's what you make. You just make it as simple as possible for practical use. And then his friend is like, the typical architect that's like, let's put Roman columns on it. And then the main character will be like, why? We don't need those. We have modern architecture, right? So it's like these architectural clashes. But that's not really what the point of the book is. It's more of like the dude who doesn't want all the extra frills. He kind of just lives his life of, he just worries about himself, and he doesn't get to charity. He doesn't believe in any religion. It's like he thinks charity is just, you're fucking someone else over by helping them and them not learning how to do it themselves, right? And Ayn Rand has this whole philosophy. Again, should have researched this. I want to say it's called individualism or something to that extent. Mm-hmm. She has this whole school of thought where people think about it now. And now you hear Ayn Rand more from like Paul Ryan or a lot of Republicans or on Fox News. They're like, Ayn Rand, Ayn Rand. To me, they forget the fact she was super atheist, and that kind of goes against a lot of conservative values. But yeah, she was against charities. And ever since I read this book, I had a really hard English teacher in high school who made us read this book because we had to enter an essay contest over, I think it was our senior year. Mm-hmm. And I read the book, and I just really, really enjoyed it. And I took a lot of stuff from it, and I was like, I enjoy this Howard Roark, I believe is the main guy's name. I just enjoyed his view on the world. For me personally. Now, I don't think everyone in the world should act like these people, but it lined up real well with, I think, the logical thinking sort of people. For sure. Right? Like, he's that sort of, he's like the Sheldon Cooper in this Ayn Rand world. Like, he's just like, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm doing this. No, I'm going to shut your business down. He's like, it's cool as long as I do what I want it to do. And like, he one time works in a quarry hammering rocks when he's a fucking architect. Just a weird story. It's really long. It takes forever to get through. There's like 1 million characters. It's set in like New York in the 50s or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I just really enjoy that book. I've also really enjoyed, Ayn Rand basically has 3 books. She has this one, which is her second one. Her first one was Anthem, which is a short story, and it's set in this weird universe, kind of like Russia, where people are assigned jobs and this communism thing. And she grew up around communism, escaped to America, so she very much puts capitalism on a pedestal and writes from that perspective. Atlas Shrugged is her masterpiece, but it looks so big, and I look at it, and I'm like, There's no way. There's just no way I'm reading it. It's just not gonna happen.
Is Anthem? Is that the one where the kid gets a sign that can't or no one can see color?
No.
The Giver.
That's the Giver.
Giver. Okay.
Yeah, Anthem is similar in that way. It's like they assigning to be a street sweeper, and he's like, I'm smart. What? And anyway, I really like Ayn Rand, and I hate the fact she's so politicized. And I mean, she was political in her day, so it's not like she didn't bring it on herself, right? I just really enjoy the story, and I think it has some good stuff to say in there. And everyone just twists it for their own political purpose. And you're like, God damn it, I love this shit. And you're all like using it for things opposite of what I believe in. So anyway, that was my number 5. Powwow, what is your number 4?
So my number 4 is going to be Fahrenheit 451.
I'm so glad you put that on your list.
Did you know, have you seen the preview for the HBO adaptation with Michael B. Jordan and Michael Shannon, the Michaels?
I've not.
Michael B. Jordan, of course, you know that as the guy who played Creed. And Michael Shannon was the weird-looking guy from Boardwalk Empire. He was on Superman. Most where he's General Zod or whatever. But they've modernized it to include the internet. So anyways, check that out. It comes out in the next month.
Okay. I remember reading it. I believe it was Coopie, the one who either gave me the book or told me I should read it, one of the two. And at first I didn't really understand what was going on.
Because the firemen caused fires.
I just didn't understand it. I was very confused. And then
that's like all fast cars and they're
and then there's this
houses and
robot dog that eats books. And then there's the walls that talk, which I then assumed those were TVs or something, adaptation of that. And I'm like, oh, you just can't read books in this, which is weird. I'm reading a book that you can't read books in.
Right.
But it was very crazy. Again, I had never read it. I think Coopie thought I should have read it at some point in time during my high school career.
I read it when I was a freshman.
I was like, nope, never did. But it really made me think for a while. I was like, it is crazy that if we ever got to that world where you can't have any books, and then it was the secret you had to keep them, and it was just a little crazy to me. I didn't know.
It's called the world of slavery in America. They lived that life.
That's true.
If you remember in the background, the people with authority have all read the books.
Yeah.
And they keep that on the down low, so it goes back to that.
I was like, I didn't really understand until about halfway through the book, and I still never really got all of it. I only read it once. I probably should have reread it again afterwards, and some things would have made a little more sense to the beginning. But it was a good book overall. I do suggest, I wish I would have read it back in high school on a few things. I think it would have been beneficial. But I mean,
I don't remember most of what I read. Fountainhead's the only book I really remember.
Well, the other one that I read in high school is my number 3, and the only reason I put it on there is because we had to do a trial for it, and I love that.
All right, Coopie, what's your number 4?
All right, my number 4 is a series that I have only recently started reading. I'm only on book 2. It's very long, but the first one is called A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And it's a fantasy fairy tale, kind of like a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, except he's a fairy who can shapeshift. He's not, but he is cursed. There is a curse. But she's a human girl who ends up getting stolen away to the fairy kingdom Perithian. And this land is magical, is divided up into 7 courts with the 7 high lords. You have the spring court, summer court, autumn court, etc. She is currently in the spring court in book 1, and she falls in love, and then she has to go and rescue the man she loves. And it has this really cool
girl power.
Yeah, and she, who
runs where?
I don't want to give away any spoilers, but she comes out victorious, and it sets up. This book is basically just a giant exposition for the rest of the series, so it's kind of slow moving at times. But book 2, I started it, A Court of Mist and Fury, and wow, it just took off really fast. Relationships have changed very quickly. There's lots of characters, very high fantasy. This is one of the first ones that I've done an audiobook with. I found the audio online, and I don't know if that's wrong to just stream it from YouTube.
You had the book in front of you, though.
No, but I know. I'm just talking about, because I didn't actually pay for the audio. It's on YouTube.
This is where I come from. If they didn't want you to do it, they could strike down that user who's posted it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so far, he has all of the books on audiobook. So I've been following along, listening to the audio, so it's going a little bit slower than my normal pace. But the reader does a really good job with the voices, and I've really, really enjoyed this series. And there are 4 as of now, and so I'm going to read them all. She also has a whole other series that I want to read someday called Throne of Glass. Look at that. There's 7 in that series, and it's about this badass assassin chick. So
that's what it looks like.
More girl power. So Court of Thorns and Roses, if you like fairies and magic and girl power, you should read it. It's really good. The main character's name is Feyre.
Yep, you've been reading it a lot lately. Been real into it. All right, on 4?
Yeah.
All right, my number 4 is, and I think the official name is the Seventh Son series, but I call it the Alvin Maker series because the main guy's name's Alvin Maker. I've highly suggested to you, Powwow, a long time ago, but it was right when you got out of reading books, so you haven't got to read it.
I started it.
Orson Scott Card's the author. I'm a big fan of Orson Scott Card, even though him and his personal life and his political views and personal views I don't necessarily agree with, but I don't think that has anything to do with his art. I really enjoy his books a lot. Anyway, Alvin Maker is based more or less on Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon religion, kind of in a way. And like the way Joseph Smith had the utopian idea of Utah and what it'd be, this guy has like the Crystal City. And anyway, it's based in history. So like the guy you meet Abraham Lincoln in book 4, and Tecumseh, the famous Indian, right, in book 2. So it's loosely based, it's fictional, of course, in this history. But basically, everyone has magic powers, and white people's typically like, oh yeah, it's very race separated, which in hindsight, thinking about it, you're like, oh, maybe that's a thing. But it works in the book. I don't know. So anyway, white people typically just have like one little power. Like one guy, he can make fire. Like he can spark a flame, but he's not real good at it. And then some guy has a power where he can always make straight lines, whether it's making fences or painting or whatever, but he cannot not make a straight line. Weird power to have. So anyway, Alvin Maker, main character, is a 7th son of a 7th son, which means he has this god power of he can do anything he wants. He can go in the molecules of shit and change it and change anything like to gold, or he can talk to a cockroach and tell him to attack his sister's bed, right? Weird stuff, but he can basically do anything. And when I first heard that, I was like, well, this will be extremely boring because he's overpowered. It's a Superman problem.
Yep.
But they do a really good job of interesting things he has to do. Like, there's basically like an inquisition where he's accused of being a witch and he has to go on trial, right? In one of the books. Another book, a slave boy who is half black, half slave owner, DNA, runs away. Alvin saves him. And then these people have the power to track down anyone with their hair. And so, like, they find the slave boy and he has to, like, help this kid or whatever. I just really like it. Now, the 7th book has been waiting on that for a long time. Hasn't come out yet. But I think it's a pretty fun little story. Indian people are a big deal in it. Alvin Maker goes and lives with them in the 2nd book when he's a teenager because he also learns their magic of the Greenfoot, where all the Indians can run forever, and the earth replenishes them through their power of healing the earth. And that's why they hate the white people. Is because the white people destroy their beautiful earth that gives them their earth powers. And so they have this whole like magic stuff that the natives have, right? And then like the black people in the slavery camps, they have voodoo power and they can make objects magical and do all the turn into birds and shit. And then they bring in Canada and France and it just gets crazy eventually. And then because Alvin Maker has a younger brother, but one of his older brothers dies, his younger brother is also a 7th son of a 7th son, but he's evil. So then they have like this, rivalry. I find it very entertaining. A guy you still work with is the one who actually told me about it. And I was like, I don't know, but I did really like it. So enough to be my number 4 for the series.
For sure. All right. So my number 3, like I alluded to earlier, is a book I read in high school, and that is Of Mice and Men.
Never read it.
Really?
No.
That's great. Oh, I just thought, again, something.
Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot. Got a really important book. I just thought of it right now. I'm so pissed.
Added your number 3.
It's okay. No, it's too late. All the rest are too important.
It was a really hard challenge. So
Fountainhead should have just not have been on there. God damn it.
But Of Mice and Men, whenever we read the book, I thought it was interesting. I felt bad for George at the end of the day. But we had to do a trial. And mine was defending why George why he did kill Lenny, where the other people, they were defending that it was an accident. And my easiest argument that I had was Lenny is taller than George. He shot George in the back of the head in a downward angle. Right. He wasn't standing on a tree. That was it. I really liked the book. That was one of the books I was like, man, that's really sad. Not only the way he is treated, granted he is slower, things that happen. I don't remember the girl's name who Lenny hurts. I don't remember her name at all. Coopie, maybe you might. But I remember reading that. I was like, this is a really sad book. I don't see why I have to read this in 9th grade high school. But I guess I'll do it.
Open your mind, change your perspective.
Made me upset and like, this is a dick move. But it really stuck with me for a long time. Like I still remember, more of what we read than I did the movie, because the movie wasn't that great. It was very boring to me. Granted, back then in movies, you sat in the back of the classroom and tried to talk without getting caught. So I could care less. It was just for 2 or 3 days you got to not do anything.
My students are currently watching The Old Man and the Sea, and I think maybe a quarter of them are actually watching the movie.
Yeah, I've never watched like Beowulf that we had to watch. I just sat there and try to talk as much as possible.
I'd hate to watch that new one, the animated one they did.
Oh yeah,
that didn't exist when we read Beowulf in school, but it was so bad.
Ours was that really old one that was. Yeah, it was still really bad.
Ours too.
All right, Coopie, what is your numero trace?
Okay, this one was really tough.
No Spanish lessons right there. Letting you know that.
This one was tough to pick a spot for because I really, really like it. It's called The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Holly Black is a very famous writer. She wrote the Spiderwick Chronicles, which I never read, but I know it was a really big series in the middle grade level. And I read one of her other books called The Darkest Part of the Forest, and I really like Holly Black and her style of writing. This one, The Cruel Prince, is another dark fairy tale. If you haven't noticed, I'm a big fantasy fan. And just take a moment, for those of you who are here, to just admire the beauty that is this book. It has a gorgeous map.
That looked like the Kraken at the front.
It's like a plant.
For those of those listening in audio, this is a very high quality book.
Yes, look, oh my gosh, look at the map. It's gorgeous.
It is black with gold leaves.
It has chapter headings.
The chapters have headings that have flowers drawn on them with
very perfect print.
Bees.
The first chapter is a single sentence, and it says...
That's my kind of book. That is my kind of book.
It says, in Fairy, there are no fish sticks, no ketchup, no television.
Well, then I'm leaving Fairy. No ketchup, I'm gone.
Future bar bet. Buy The Cruel Prince, bet someone in the bar you could read a whole chapter of a book in less than a minute, and they're like, no. Bam.
Knock it out.
I want to tell you a little bit about this book. It's about a girl named Jude. She is a twin sister, and in the prologue, so in the very beginning of the story,
even before the story, some would say.
Yes. Shut up. The King of Fairies comes and kills her parents. And
it sounds like you're insulting someone.
Yes, exactly.
What do you mean?
The King of Fairies.
It
sounds like
my mind doesn't even go there.
It seems like a junior high hate. Hardcore.
This dude is
the king
no
of
fairy
fairies.
in the sense that you two are thinking. He is a very tough guy. He would, in fact,
big tough guy.
He's violent. He's cruel. But
are you trying to say fairies?
Anyway. The fairy world is very mortal. Is very brutal.
I understand. I've heard it is very brutal to be a fairy.
You guys are so
very hard.
Anyway, she's stolen. Her sister is taken by basically this guy who becomes her adopted father, and she really doesn't fit in this world, and she's trying to find her place, and she ends up. She's been trained by her father's. I don't even want to say fairy knights because I don't know where you guys are going to go with that. But by his warriors.
So fairy knights actually sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
So she's really skilled, and she becomes a warrior. And she teams up with Prince Carden, who is the cruel prince. He was really mean to her, but you find out that he loves her, and he hates her at the same
her hair.
time.
One of those scenarios.
He hates her at the same time because she is human, so he's like disgusted with his love for her, but
nasty
he's just drawn
humans.
to her. And there's going to be a sequel coming in January called The Wicked King. and I'm really excited for that as well.
So he stays a dick even when he becomes the king.
Yes, and I
All
will
right.
say you're going to make fun of me, and I don't even think I've officially told Mo this, but I did buy the Owl Crate edition of this book that is signed by Holly Black, and will have a totally different
you already
cover.
got
Here's
the
what
book?
I do.
This one I can lend to others.
Here's the way I think of it: is whenever like Spider-Man comes out
Yep.
next month on PS4, I'll be like, I want to get Spider-Man, and she'll be like, well, I did buy all these bugs, so sure, go ahead and get it.
So you're just letting her bank it up.
Yeah,
I got you.
It'll just be when we actually run out of money from all of our purchases. That'll be
We can just sell the books. Maybe. I don't know.
All right. I guess we kind of need to speed it up here. All right, my number 3. I'm going with a series of the Enderverse. So, the first book in the series is Ender's Game. So that's one most people would know. A movie was made called Ender's Game. Coopie and myself went and saw this movie, and I loved it. I was like, this is my favorite new movie. I just was really impressed with Ender's Game. Then it flopped, and all the reviews were like, this movie sucks. This is not a good movie. And I was like, I love this movie, so I'm going to read the book. And I love the book. And then it turns out there's like 9 books in this series because there's this other character named Bean. So there's Ender and there's Bean. And after Ender's Game, those books split off. They actually rewrite Ender's Game from Bean's perspective, and then they have 2 book series that go separate ways, where Ender goes into the future because he goes through space travel, and Bean stays on Earth, and you figure out all the politics involved there. I just really like it. I know it's totally directed at like 14-year-old boys, so maybe the fact I just didn't read was like, fuck yeah, I was all about it. But I really enjoyed it. I think Bean's path is probably better with the political stuff. But then again, Ender's stuff deals with aliens. Like, he goes to a planet that all these Catholics have settled. Because basically in Ender's Game, and this is Orson Scott Card, again, as the author of this series, same as the Alvin Maker one. The way they solve religious and ideological problems is every religion just gets their own planet. So, like, all the Catholics go live on this planet, and Ender goes there. I just really like all the Ender Game books, and I've bought a whole bunch of them. We have a bunch in this bookcase behind me. Someday I may reread them all. I know I have one I haven't read that's like a prequel to Ender's Game, but I've committed a lot of time to Ender's Game, so that is why it is my number 3 on my list. Highly recommend it.
For sure. So, my number 2 is Sail. James Patterson. It's about this family. I believe it's called Dunes.
Where'd you get this book?
From your mom.
Okay.
So basically, it's about this family that's on a sailboat. The wife had lost her husband like 4 or 5 years prior. They go out with the mom and the 3 kids. There's a girl that tries to throw herself overboard to get some attention before they even leave port. Then you have I think he's 16 year old kid getting high all the time, and then you have the 10-year-old kid, which is just, he has a shitty life. And then they have the brother-in-law there. I don't want to say ex-brother-in-law. I don't know how you would call him, the dead husband's brother. They are on this boat. Yeah, late brother-in-law. So they're on this boat. Basically, the boat blows up. They land on a island, or they float to an island. The brother-in-law dies while they're there, or while that boat blew up. They put a message in a bottle that's found inside of a fish. The husband that she married was staying on land. She did not go with them. Basically, he hired someone to kill his family because the woman was worth like $100 million after her husband had passed. So then he finds out that they're still alive. He's a pilot. He flies around, finds them on an island. They think they're all nice and happy. Well, he's going to go shoot the mom because he doesn't want, her to suffer seeing through the kids, because why would you want to do that even though you're killing her? Well, the 16-year-old kid knocks his dude out.
You remember a lot about this book for the fact it just came to you like 10 minutes before we recorded this episode. You're like, aha.
Yeah.
And you remember everything about it.
Hold on. And then so they leave the island. They settle. They're trying to go to court for this murder. They can't really prove. They settle. And then the father had hired somebody to try and kill them. It did not obviously go very well. The dad ended up sleeping with some other young chick who was working with the guy who was trying to kill the family. So that guy kills the husband, and then that guy ends up getting killed later on. Everything ends up being copacetic at the end. And then you find out at the very end the 10-year-old boy is actually not their full brother and sister. It is actually the brother-in-law's kid because the mama cheated on. And that was kind of the final twist.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you read that one as well.
Yeah, I was.
You were rolling to it.
I mean, that was when I was reading like literally almost a book a week.
Yeah.
I thought you said that was impossible.
No, it is one until you have like 6 hours of the day that you can just sit there and read books.
Well, I guess now you have kids.
Yeah, well, that, and then I had time back then at work to read this because these were all done at work.
Okay.
All right, Coopie, number 2.
Okay, this one is actually a part of a duology. It's called Six of Crows. The second book is Crooked Kingdom. They are by Leigh Bardugo, a female, Leigh Bardugo. And wow. I've never read a book as cool as this. It's set in the world of Ketterdam. There's a whole trilogy that's actually set in the same universe in like 4 years prior. It's called the Grishaverse, and I have that on my bookcase. I'm going to read it next. I kind of read these books out of order, but Six of Crows follows a totally different set of characters, so you can read one without the other series. But you have the main guy, Kaz, and he runs this gang of very talented criminals. They all have different skill sets, and they are basically breaking into one of the most secure prisons in this world, and they are trying to steal a scientist who has come up, the scientist himself, because he has come up with a formula that will enhance the Grisha, which are magical people. They have different skills, and basically put their skills on steroids, and it makes them like heroin addicts, like they are just addicted to this drug.
Right.
So they've got to eliminate this scientist guy. And so the first book is them trying to go to the prison, break in, steal the scientist, break out. And it's like, I think it has 6 characters. It's called Six of Crows. So that's kind of where the title comes from. And it's just a really great series. I can't wait to read her trilogy after I finish the current series I'm reading now. So Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo.
Yeah, you have like 10 books in waiting.
I got way too many books in there.
You can never have too many books on your TBR list.
Okay, my number 2 is Powwow's number 1.
Yep.
So we can do that one together. We're going to go with A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yep.
So those, for anyone that knows, it's a Game of Thrones books called A Song of Ice and Fire. We watched season 1, I believe, and then between season 1 and 2, or actually maybe in the middle of us watching season 1, I bought the books.
Yep.
I went online.
I don't think it was the end.
I ordered some shitty used $1.50 copies of all of them. First book is really close to the show. I think that's why I have the least problem with season 1 as a TV show, because I watched it before I read the book. Now, when you hear how Tyrion's supposed to look, you're like, why didn't you do it?
Yeah.
Or you're like,
I wanted the green eye.
or Tywin is bald. Why not just shave him bald? Why
He didn't have
couldn't
much
you
hair
done
anyway.
that? Right. So there's little things like that annoy you, but overall, I think they do a good job. I hate everything that's when they pass the book, and I think it's because I just don't know. I'm like, that might not be right.
Well, let's just be honest. We're never getting
Right.
the
And that's
next
the other
book.
thing is we waited because I bought the first 4, probably a month before the 5th one came out. And then we read the 5th one when it was new, and because I had paid the most for that one. And so we've been waiting basically since the day the 5th one came out for the 6th one.
Yep.
I also listened to all the audiobooks of them when I lived further away and was driving for work. After I'd already read them, which was cool. It helped me go back and catch some theories and stuff that I'd read about. The books are just way better.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest complaint about the books is he does too much detail. Spend a whole page describing a room and the food in it and the banners and what color the thread is and jerkins, always talking about goddamn jerkins. And it is annoying, but I guess because like we've been alluding to throughout this, we didn't read before this. So it didn't throw me off. I was
Not
just
at all.
like, this is what I'm used to. Boring ass fucking books with all their words.
Exactly.
But I got through it and then got to the good stuff. And then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, that has a flayed man. Like, or like when we watched the show, like Coopie had a friend come over once that watched it and they just asked so many questions. And I'm like, I have to answer you because I've read the book and I know all these answers. But at the same time, like,
Well, and then
I don't want questions asked to me because I want to pay attention.
and then we'd get confused on after season 1 or even really 2. Did this happen in the book?
Right.
Or was this the show? Because it does deviate from there.
Well, once we got towards the end, us trying to remember shit, it's like, wait, was that book or show or
exactly.
both?
It was a little tough. I mean, I remember when we were reading The Red Wedding, we both said, no way. We got to go read that same page again to make sure this.
I remember I didn't tell you about it because I read it. I reread that chapter a few times, and I was reading them, and I'd hand it off to you, and I was like, I can't tell him, but the third book in the series is easily the best. Yeah. It's just it's the payoff. The series was originally a trilogy. That was the plan, and it was going to end, but then he didn't really wrap shit up by
not at all.
3.
He didn't even wrap it up by book 5.
Right, and he was going to push it out to 5, and there was supposed to be like a big 15-year gap or something between book 3 and 4, but then when he started writing it, he realized the fans were all going to be pissed, and that's why, honestly, when you watch the show, people are too good. Like, Jon Snow shouldn't be that good. Arya shouldn't be that good. They were supposed to have a big gap, so they, like, trained behind the scenes, and you could believe that now they're a badass. But he kind of put a rush on it. Yeah. Also, the book's weirder because, like, Daenerys is 13, and Drogo's, like, 30, and he's raping her, basically.
Yep.
And the show, it's like, ooh, hot Aquaman and Daenerys, and it's all cool. But it's like, the book's a little different.
Yeah.
And the book has, like, the way they handle Bellamy in the book so awesome, but they couldn't have done it in the show because it relies on you not knowing what he looks like. The fact that you could have a visual have been ruined. So I understand why they changed some stuff. But like I wish, and I know like everyone loves Ramsay. He done a good job on the show. I really wish they hired someone that looked like the guy described in the book because he seems so much creepier.
For sure.
Like, sure, the guy on the show was like a psychopath looking, but like the dude in the book was like a big oaf, dumb, and crazy. It was like a weird combination.
And I'm still upset they never brought in Strong Belwas.
I know. He was
like that was my number one dude.
Yeah. So anyway, it opened the door for basically every other book we've mentioned here almost that we read. So it deserves credit for that.
For sure.
But a lot of people give it shit that are avid readers. But we just weren't avid readers when we read it. So it seemed like
I think it made
was
it
the
that
best.
much better. Agreed.
Right. Any thoughts? Are you going to ever read it, Coopie?
Yeah, this is actually a series I have never read because I didn't know about it until, like they were saying, we're already into the show. And for me personally, it's really hard. I like to read before I see it. So, for example, Big Little Lies, the HBO miniseries that came out last year. So good. And I hear the book is obviously way better, but I just don't know if I'll ever go back and read it because I feel like I already know what's going to happen. But maybe...
That one's a thriller too, though.
Yeah, but maybe I'll go back and read Game of Thrones because I do love fantasy, and it does seem like something that would be on par with all of my interests, but I'm going to have to buy a whole new set.
Yeah. Powwow has a brand new set.
I do.
If you need to borrow some.
Yeah, because Jill started reading halfway through the first one and has never been able to get.
All right, Coopie, what is your number one?
Wait, we skipped.
Nope.
My number one.
Oh, wait, that's right.
Yeah, my number one was
all right, so my number one is a real obvious one. It's, I think, one that most people have on their top 5 book list, and it is the Harry Potter series. I love Harry Potter so much. My favorite
Demon Child Harry Potter.
My favorite book in the series is book 4, Goblet of Fire. Just because it's fun getting to see other schools and imagining the wizarding world outside of Hogwarts. But Harry Potter, it came out when we were in like the 4th or 5th grade. So it's been a big part of most people's lives of our generation. I actually only read like the first 2 or 3 when they came out, and then just kind of fell out of it. I was kind of a book snob in high school. I read a lot of the classics, so I kind of missed
like me and rap music.
I missed a lot of the YA books as they were coming out. I did read Twilight before I knew that there was going to be the movie series. I read the first 2 books, and then I think that's when they announced that they were going to be turning it into a show. And I like dark vampire stuff, so I really liked Twilight. But that I didn't really read Harry Potter in high school. I read the Twilight books. But Aaron got me the Harry Potter books, and so I reread them all, and I love them so much. And I mean, it's just such a fun world. Who wouldn't want to go to a wizarding school and drink butterbeer?
Honestly, I think the only place she fucked up is she should have just kept pumping them out same style. And maybe she did. Like, if I was her, I would have kept writing, like, for Harry Potter's grandkids have an adventure, and I would have banked them and then just left them to your estate or whatever so I could just keep publishing them forever. But seemed like after she finished her little run, she slowed down, was like, oh, there's some prequel movies we can make, and here's a play. And those are cool, but that's not the same as the hype that existed. I never read them, but a lot of people did that I knew. Like, they went fucking crazy when those books came out. Like, stores would go off, went off the shelves. I'm just surprised. I don't know.
If you had read it, I don't think you'd be as surprised. It's just so accessible. Like, the reading itself is not complex. It's fun. The language is playful, so you don't take it too seriously. So it's just a really accessible book for, I think, a wide range of ages. I think you would like them. They're fun. I mean, granted, you've seen all the movies, you know where it's all going.
Right.
So probably wouldn't. I hadn't seen all the movies until you bought them for me. So like I said, I'm a little late to the YA world, but I love Harry Potter.
All right, and then my number one, because I know we're getting late here for Powwow, is Ready Player One.
Yep, figured that would be there.
The fastest I've ever read a book. It just was right up my alley as far as video games and Imagine This World. I mean, the Oasis, which is like the main point of the whole thing, is the perfect video game, and it's what everyone imagines when they imagine the perfect VR video game. Every video game lives inside of this other video game, and the movie was cool for what it was. It's not the book story-wise or whatever. The book's a lot better, in my opinion. But I've talked about this book a lot, actually, on this podcast because the movie came up and everything. So I just really like it. I think if you have any interest in video games, it's a good one. Ernest Cline's the author, and his second book is good too, but it reads like a screenplay called Armada, where like you can tell he just wrote it to be a movie. Whereas in Ready Player One, he wrote it in a way like there's no way this will ever be a movie, and then he sold the rights to it. But anyway, really like Ready Player One. Highly recommend it. It is definitely my favorite.
For sure.
Honorable mentions we can run through real quick. The one I really wish I would remember was Watership Down. And you said of mice and men. So the mice remind me of Watership Down is about rabbits. Mm-hmm. And I love Watership Down.
You did.
I'm so pissed. I did not put that number 5. Coopie got me to read The Hunger Games. They were actually pretty good. The third one isn't great, but the first one is really well done. I read a book series called The Dwarves, or at least the first 2. I have them up here. I think it was translated from German, so some of the names are crazy. But it's actually a pretty good little magic fantasy story. And then Invisible Man I read in high school, and I remember liking it, but I reread it as an adult, and I was like, there's no point to this book. It's a book without a point. And then I got all pissed about it. And I hate the Maze Runner series. I just want to say I hate them. Read the first 3 books, and they're fucking shitty. So anyway, any honorable mentions from either of y'all?
No, we talked.
I know you got one you should probably mention. Goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
You love Goosebumps.
I do. I mean, that was before I read any books. That was actually the only books that I had read. At my grandmother's house, I still have like 15 of the books. Whether it was, The Mummy or the whatever that snowman one is.
Yeah.
I mean, there was quite a few. Then there was like the child or the dollhouse, or where they went to some factory where kids' toys were made and they were evil. I read I don't know how many Goosebumps.
Or just like the haunted peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like Goosebumps had some crazy weird stuff.
They had some awesome stuff.
I always got them and Are You Afraid of the Dark confused. I never remember which one was which.
Yeah,
because they were similar to me or whatever.
Were there Are You Afraid of the Dark books?
No. I never read Goosebumps books, but they had a Goosebumps show.
Yeah.
It was a Canadian show.
And then they had Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Canadian A.
Yeah. I do have an honorable mention. I want to mention A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, I believe is the author's name. It is a really fun fantasy story with witches and vampires and demons, and it all has like historical undertones. Like the main character is related back to actual people in the Salem witch trial. So like she does a really good job bringing in real world elements to make this feel like it could actually be a real situation. But they are turning it into a TV show. They just released some pictures from that. It's going to be really good. So I've got a shout out to A Discovery Witches. It's the All Souls trilogy.
And then a book I've bought and I've tried to read because it's on every like highly recommended list there is The Name of the Wind. And is that the name of it? Mm-hmm. I believe. And I was like, I'm going to read this. It's supposed to be the next Game of Thrones. Like real big deals. It's got movie deals, TV deals. Yeah. It's supposed to be just this huge thing. And I've gotten through the first probably 100 pages. And I'm just like, it's not, I don't understand what's supposed to be good about this. Like, nothing's grabbing me. Like, none of the story's captivating me. Plus, the way it's written is not, like, super awesome. So I'm like, I don't understand how it's gotten so much love. But I know I just need to try to give it another shot. But we'll see if I ever get back into reading.
For sure.
Lately, it's all Netflix.
I'm really excited to go to Denver in September and see Anthony Dower. He wrote All the Light We Cannot See. So I'm going to get to go to like my first legit author signing.
Bam, 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 bam.
I'm going with my mom and sister. We're going to have so much fun.
All right. Well, I think we've ran a little long here, so call it good for this week.
Yeah.
My goal is next week, we might have new microphones and equipment, and it might sound good and be easier to mess with.
For sure.
But we're going to see. No guarantees. Now, Powell, do you have any idea what next week's top 5 is?
Well, it was top 5 canceled TV shows that we want another season of.
All right. That'll be fun. We might have to change it because we also have other plans where someone else might be on the podcast on it. So we'll see what happens. But that one will be good. We canceled the top 5 inspirational women because it was hard. So we just said, fuck that.
They didn't even tell me about this list.
Well, last week we decided, we'll see halfway during the
we
week
go
where
through
we're
Wednesday or Thursday.
And then neither one of us had started by then. So we're like, let's just not do that one.
Yeah.
Women aren't worth it.
Well, it was like my mom, and then I liked my step-grandma Rita. She was cool to me.
That was my thing is, it was tough to decide who, like...
Let's rank family members.
Exactly. That's how I was...
Could they not just be women in history?
They could be, but then my mom would be like, what, you think Amelia Earhart's more important than me? Not that she would hear this.
I brought you in this world. I can take you out.
Yeah. So we don't want to risk it. So anyway, that's all we got this week.
Yeah. Peace out, guys.
Goodbye.
Peace.